Hi, how's everybody doing today? In this video I want to talk about a somewhat controversial subject in the audio forums, audio measurements versus listening. And this group seems to be highly divided, and we like to talk about controversial subjects and debunk things on Clint the Audio Guy channel. So I wanted to discuss it. There's two groups. They seem to be very polarized. One group thinks that measurements are all that matter, or 99% of what matters, and then the other group thinks listening is the most important thing. So below in the comments, I want you to tell me which one you think is more important. And now I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. So to me, measurements are important during the manufacturing of products, or during the designing, I should say, of products like speakers, amplifiers, preamplifiers, because you're trying to get them to a certain standard to where they're going to perform well. So measurements are absolutely beneficial in the design stage. After the fact, it's a little different. I think the emphasis switches teams, and it goes to listening, because people come into me all the time, with already preconceptions in their head of the way something's going to perform because of what they saw in a spec sheet. And this is my 18th year selling hi-fi, just so you know. So I've been around a long time. I've been doing this a long time, and I've heard, I wouldn't say everything, but I've heard a lot. Not just of audio equipment, but I've heard a lot of customers' issues and complaints and requests and all that. So I don't know where I want to go with this. So customers will come in and they tell me, well, I gotta have this speaker because it plays to 28 hertz and this other one only goes down to 30 hertz. And they know that they want, pretty convinced about it too, they know that they want this speaker because it goes deeper in the bass by 2 hertz, and they know that's just going to be better than this other one that only goes to 30 hertz. Now that's deep for any speaker, really. Most music actually only goes down to about 35 hertz. So how important is that spec? Not only how important is that spec, but how accurate is that spec? Each manufacturer uses a different standard of measurement. One manufacturer could use the anechoic chamber response with no room loading. The other manufacturer can be using an in-room measurement, which is taking into account corners and placement closer to walls. There's all kinds of inconsistencies in the way that things are measured. The other thing, this is a very complex subject. This could be huge. I could talk forever on it, but I'm going to try to distill it down to the basics. For instance, a spec sheet. This is when they say measurements, most of the time they mean spec sheets, because people aren't at home with scientific equipment testing out their own speakers in their own room and everything. They're trusting somebody else's measurements, right? So where are those published? Well, spec sheets, right? Well, there's a lot of spec sheets that aren't... my lights went off. There. My spec sheets don't specify all kinds of things that we hear. So one thing is sound staging. Another thing is how big is a sound stage? Is it wide? Is it tall? Is it deep? Is it small? Is it narrow? How about sweet spot? Is the sweet spot a very narrow window? If you move your head, a foot either way, does the sound stage collapse, or does it stay in focus pretty much wherever you're at in the room? I've never seen sound stage or sweet spot specified on a spec sheet. I've also never seen, and there's a magazine, Stereophile, which actually does more measurements. So if we're all just reading Stereophile, there's more measurements they do. They do square wave response and all kinds of stuff. But I've never seen them specify soundstage. I've never seen them specify sweet spot. Things like inner detail, holographic imaging. I mean, there's all kinds of descriptors we use to describe how something sounds that you cannot get from a spec sheet. They just don't spec it. There's nothing to measure. So, in my opinion, listening is the most important thing. Or listen to a guy that's been listening for the last 2 decades, solid. You know, people will come in and they'll argue with me about something. I'm like, I know this sounds great, and this is why I'm steering you in your price range for your needs, for the, let's say, the form factor. If they're shopping for speakers, I want a bookshelf, I got $1,000 to $1,500 to spend. I go over and I'm showing them the speaker because I know that's the best sounding speaker you can get for the money. Now, a lot of listening is subjective too. Everybody's reference is based on what they have currently. So it's not everything is necessarily better or worse, but things like sound staging and imaging, especially off-axis imaging, is a listening thing, and it's not super subjective, let's say. Anyway, measurements during the design stage. Measurements are not a reason to make a purchase, let's say. So spec sheet. I can think of like in the 90s, I was shopping for headphones, right? You spend $15 on a pair of headphones, you get a headphone that goes down to about 30 hertz, right? You spend $25 on a pair of headphones, you get a headphone that goes down to 32 hertz. You spend $30 on a pair of headphones, it goes down to 31 hertz. The more you spent, the wider that frequency response got. You know, and of course, the same thing on the top end. It extends up to 20,000 hertz, and then it extends up to 22, and then it extends up to 25, and you think, oh, it's going to sound so much better. There's more information there. But that's not necessarily the case. Also, there's a reason their spec sheets look better to you the more the item costs. Just think about that. Are those specs exactly accurate? I don't think so. There's nobody policing it. There's nobody going, oh, you lied on this. It goes to 23,000 hertz, not 25, like you said. There's nobody checking. You know, they can kind of say what they want. This happens a lot in projectors. Contrast ratio. Do you really think they have 2 million to 1 contrast ratio on these projectors? And you're like, well, this one's only 1.5 million, and this one's 2 million. You know, when I was ISF trained, Imaging Science Foundation, for calibration of projectors and screens, you know, at the time that I got ISF certified, the largest contrast ratio actually measured in a commercial cinema. This is a red carpet event cinema in Hollywood, so good projector. It was like 212 to 1. Not 2 million to 1. So you think those are actually real? No, they're not. Anyway, I hope I haven't confused anybody, and it doesn't make sense to argue on forums about it. This is just kind of how it is, you know. Designers use measurements to create products that'll work to a certain standard, but in no way do the measurements that we as consumers have reflect how something is going to sound. It's like the ingredients in a recipe. If you got a box of, I don't know, crackers or something, and you read the recipe list on the side, and there's like 50 things on the side, do you read that and go, oh, I know exactly how this is going to taste? Nope, not at all. You could like that cracker, you could not like that cracker. Who knows? Anyway, do you eat all your food blindfolded with a clothespin on your nose? No. We want to know how it smells. We want to know how it looks. Ultimately, that's going to reflect how much we enjoy the food. So, anyway, I hope I haven't confused you too much or rambled too long here. Thanks for watching. We'll get to more controversial subjects soon. Have a good one.